I've got a few things I need to say about this bill, so I hope y'all will bear with me this afternoon. You already know what the first comment is going to be. This bill is an unprecedented step toward criminalizing being transgender in America. When you boil it down, what it does is makes it a crime to be a transgender adult in Arkansas. Now, you can parse words with me and say, oh, it only applies if you go in a public restroom and then only if a child is present. But we all know that adults have to use public restrooms. If not every day, then virtually every day. And it's impossible to spend a week or two of your life, much less years or your entire adult life, with being certain that the only time you go into a public restroom is when no children are present. So once again, when you boil it down, this bill makes it a crime to be a transgender adult in Arkansas. If passed, it would be the most extreme anti-trans law in America. Now, you may not understand why a person would be transgender or be interested in the science around it, but at some point you have to recognize the basic humanity of a person. And there's nothing more human than having to go to the bathroom. And this bill criminalizes that. And that's cruel. Now, I don't believe it's Senator Payton's intent to be cruel. I'm confident that it's not. But whether it's his intent or not, this criminalizes going to the bathroom as a transgender adult in Arkansas. And that's cruel, and it presents a horrible image of our state to the world. Now, I know many, if not most of y'all, disagree with every word that I've just said. Now, while that may be personally disappointing for me, I also recognize that. So I'm going to ask you to indulge me and set everything I said just now all to the side and pay attention only to what I'm going to say from this point forward, because what I'm going to say from this point forward has nothing to do with the fact that I'm a Democrat. It will not be based on any political, philosophical, or ideological difference that you and I may have with each other. I'm going to talk about the language in the bill only, okay? So let's start with the easy stuff. On page 7, line 14 of this bill, there's a missing line. There's a line missing in the bill. Now, I've discussed this with Senator Payton. He's agreed to change that in the House, but that didn't stop or even slow down this bill from passing out of committee when there's missing language in the bill. Beyond that, as y'all know, this makes it a crime to go into a bathroom and remain there of the opposite sex and remain there if a child is present. There's an exception in the bill if it's your own child who's 6 years old or younger. But there's no gender language in the exception. So the way the bill is written, an adult man can take his 5 or 6 year old son into a women's room and hang out there all day. And under this bill, it's not a crime. Now, Senator Payton said in committee that does not match his intent. But did that slow this bill down from coming out of committee? Not even a bit. Beyond that, and this Senator Love got at this in his question. I asked Senator Payton in committee, are you aware of a single instance in Arkansas of this happening, someone going into a bathroom of the opposite sex and it causing harm to a child? Now, he said he's aware of some constituents who have a concern about it, but he's not aware of a single instance of that ever happening. Now, we know that's not going to slow the bill down because we pass bills out of here all the time without any evidence of a problem whatsoever. But I want to talk for a minute. I want to go a little deeper on the bill, a little more into the meat. As many of y'all know, crimes consist of elements. These are the facts that prosecutors have to prove in order to obtain a conviction. By and large, elements consist of two categories: a mental state and then behavior that we as a society want to prevent or criminalize. There are some crimes like murder that depend on a result like the death of another person, but by and large, there are two types of elements for crimes: a mental state and behavior that we want to prevent and criminalize. In this bill, there is a mental state, knowingly, which Senator Payton amended into the bill. It was not in there originally. The behavior that the bill seeks to prevent and criminalize is entering and remaining into a public changing facility, which is basically a public bathroom, and remaining there while a child is present. If you do that, you're guilty of indecent sexual conduct with a child, sexual indecency with a child. I want to give you just a couple of examples of what I mean when I talk about behaviors and mental states. I'm going to first use battery in the first degree. A person commits battery in the first degree if, with the purpose of causing serious physical injury to another person, that's the mental state. The person causes serious physical injury to any person by means of a deadly weapon. There's the behavior that we want to prevent and criminalize. Another example, theft of property. A person commits theft of property if he or she knowingly, there's the mental state, takes or exercises unauthorized control of the property of another person. There's the behavior. And then there's another mental state with the purpose of depriving the owner of the property, of that property. We already have the crime of sexual indecency with a child on the books, and there's 3 examples. So again, the behavior here is being in a bathroom while a child is present. These are the examples of sexual indecency with a child of the crimes that we have on the book, of the crime that we have on the books. First, being an adult, 18 years or older, you solicit someone who's 14 years or younger to engage in sexual intercourse, deviant sexual activity, or sexual contact. That's sexual indecency with a child. The second example, with the purpose to arouse or gratify a sexual desire, the person purposely exposes his or her sex organs to another person who's under 14 or of any age if they have a position of influence over that child. That's sexual indecency with a child. The third example is, with the purpose to arouse or gratify a sexual desire, the person, being 18 years of age or older, causes or coerces a minor to expose his or her sex organs. Someone who's 14 years of younger for any minor, or a minor of any age if you have a position of influence over them. That's sexual indecency with a child. And what we're proposing to add to that here is if you are in a bathroom with a child, not if you're harming the child, not if you're attempting or threatening to harm the child, not if you're observing the child, not if you're anywhere near the child. If you're in the bathroom with the child under this law, you're guilty of sexual indecency with the child. And I want to give a couple of examples of what that means, but for how broad that is. There might be a situation that a child could get hurt if there's a person in a bathroom with them. Just like a child might get hurt on an interstate highway. But we don't ban cars from being near other cars if there's a child present on interstate highways. What we do ban are people from speeding or driving while intoxicated, because those are the behaviors that as a society we want to prevent and criminalize. But here, all we're saying we want to prevent and criminalize is someone from being in a bathroom at all. So let's say a person has an emergency need to go into the bathroom to wash their hands. They walk in. There's a child at the next sink washing their hands. You remain in the bathroom to wash your hands. No one in the bathroom is using the bathroom. You're guilty of sexual indecency with a child. I'll give you another example. You're in the bathroom, and it's embarrassing that I have to talk about this on the Senate floor. You're in a bathroom in an enclosed stall. The stall door is locked. You're sitting on the toilet. You hear a child come in. You're in the middle of doing your business, okay? You hear the child's voice. You remain in the bathroom until the child leaves. You are guilty of sexual indecency with a minor. Now, the broad description of the behavior that we're trying to prevent and criminalize with this bill is not even the worst part of the bill. That is the fact that an element of this crime is that you have to go into a bathroom of the opposite sex. Sex is defined in the bill. According to the bill, it means a person's immutable biological sex as objectively determined by anatomy and genetics as existing at the time of birth. It's hard for me to put into words how preposterous I believe that is, but I'm going to try. As I mentioned, there are 2 types of elements generally that are in crimes: mental states and behaviors. This adds a physical trait of a person's body to being an element of a crime. So what this means is, if we believe it and agree with it, that the only people who can harm a young boy in a men's room are those people who were born with vaginas. Or the only people who can harm a young girl in a women's room are those who were born with penises. Now, what does that have to do with whether you're harming a child or not? It doesn't have anything more to do with whether you were born with brown hair or one arm or green skin. That's why prosecutors and states don't put physical traits of a person as an element of a crime for an offender. Beyond that, in order for a prosecutor to obtain a conviction under this crime as it's written, they will have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt what a person's genitals were when they were born. Just let that sink in. A prosecutor will have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt in order to obtain a conviction what a person's genitals were when they were born. Now, y'all might ask me, I'm going to stop talking about the bill now. And you might ask me, Tucker, why are you down there so long beating up on a bill that is so obviously flawed? And at the risk of answering a question with a question, my question to the membership is, what is a bill that's in this kind of shape doing on the floor of the Arkansas State Senate? And even worse, why does it stand such a high chance of passing? I was elected to the state Senate on November 3rd, 2020. The first event that I attended as a senator-elect was a dinner on November 5th, the night before our organizational meeting. At that dinner, Senator Hickey, who was the incoming president pro tem, had a gift and a message for all of us. The gift was a knife. And the message was not for us to stab each other. The message was that iron sharpens iron. Now, I liked that. I knew coming into this body that there were going to be laws that were passed that I disagree with from a philosophical standpoint, and I accept that. But what I thought that meant is that we as a membership would work hard to get bills in the best shape that they can be in before we pass them, or we don't pass them. Now, stop me if you've heard this. We're in committee. We have an amendment that wholly transforms a bill with no notice to the members and no notice to the members of the public. But that doesn't stop the committee. Adopt the amendment, pass it out. We have another bill that comes to committee. It's totally dependent. Its implementation is totally dependent on an appropriation being passed. Otherwise, it's an unfunded mandate that will cause the state agency to be breaking the law if the appropriation's not passed. The appropriation process hasn't even begun. We don't know if it's going to pass or not. Doesn't matter. Let's pass that bill out of committee. We have another bill that's banning counties from doing something that no county in the state is doing. Doesn't matter. Let's pass that bill out of committee. And how many times have we heard this? Oh, this bill is flawed. I, as the bill sponsor, agree. But I promise I'll get it fixed in the House. Now, I don't know about you, Senator Hickey, but I'm worried that some folks have left their iron at home because we need to see some more sharpening around here. And this is the point I'm trying to drive home. Vetting bills is not partisan. Vetting bills is not partisan. It requires good faith, mutual respect, and hard work, and that's it. Vetting bills should never be partisan, but it should especially not be partisan when one party has over 80% of the seats in the legislative body. If vetting becomes partisan in that circumstance, then we end up with a whole lot of bad laws on the books. Now, I don't want to suggest that there's no vetting taking place. Just in Senate state agencies yesterday, Senator Hammer and Senator McKee pulled bills down based on questioning from Senator Payton, Senator Dodson, and myself. And I want to compliment Senator Payton and Senator Dodson for asking those questions, and I want to especially compliment Senator Hammer and Senator McKee for being open to hearing those questions. But we can do better than we've been doing. And y'all know that we can do better than we've been doing. The people of Arkansas deserve better than we've been doing. We're down here not to make political statements or for our own egos or for social media posts. We're down here to make laws. And if we pass laws like this one and somebody breaks it, they're going to prison. The people of Arkansas deserve our best effort. And we can start right now with a vote on this bill. We can say, Senator Payton, no matter how much we like you, and I know we all do. Senator Payton, no matter how much we respect you, and I know we all do, I know that I do. Senator Payton, no matter how much we like what you're trying to do here, which I personally don't, some of y'all may, but no matter how much we like what you're trying to do here, when a bill comes to the floor in this shape, it's not passing the Arkansas State Senate. Let's see what happens.